So greetings, dear friends, all welcome to the Sutta study group. And we'll begin as usual with some meditation time, just allowing for people to arrive and settle in. So we'll sit together quietly for about 10 minutes to really settle in, make yourselves comfortable. We can open up to the shared space now. And welcome, big warm welcome again to the Sutta study group. And yes, we're being live streamed, so you're so welcome to either appear or not appear. And we can investigate together, diving back into Vedana Samyutta, Samyutta Nikaya, chapter on feelings, chapter 36. So many wonderful suttas in this chapter. We're going to look at 1 or 2 or 3 today. I thought we could start with some very simple, short teachings, some similes from the Buddha to help to broaden our understanding of the Buddha's teachings on feelings. And we'll see how we go. We have a longer sutta lined up if we have time, but no pressure. We just see where these teachings take us. And this is a collective. Everyone's welcome to contribute with reflections, questions. It's an open forum. So without any further ado, let's launch into the first sutta. I'm going to put it up on the screen. And this is number 12, 36:12. And here we have Bhante Sujato's translation for this first one. In the sky, Patama Akasa Sutta. And what I'd like to do is invite you just to carry on meditating and tune into the ear sense door and just receive. And I will read this sutta in full, and then we can have some time for investigation together into this teaching. So here we go. This is the Buddha speaking. In the sky, the name of this sutta. Friends, various winds blow in the sky. Winds blow from the east, the west, the north, and the south. There are winds that are dusty and dustless, cool and warm, weak and strong. In the same way, various feelings arise in this body, pleasant, painful, and neutral feelings. There are many and various winds that blow in the sky. From the east they come, also the west, the north, and then the south. They are dusty and dustless, cool and sometimes warm, strong and weak. These are the different breezes that blow. So too, in this body, feelings arise, pleasant and painful, and those that are neutral. But when a person is keen, not neglecting situational awareness, that astute person understands all feelings. Completely understanding feelings, they are without defilements in this very life. That master of knowledge is firm in principle, and when their body breaks up, they can't be reckoned with, they can't be found. Well. So there we have this teaching, first in prose, and then the Buddha speaking in verses, repeating the same teaching. All the winds in the sky. It's quite poignant, really, when we consider what's been happening in parts of America this week. Very strong winds, very destructive, so much damage, so much suffering. There are the strong winds, there are the weak ones, gentle breezes, dusty or dustless, hot or cold, all the different winds that blow. And it's interesting, here the Buddha is comparing these winds to feelings. In other places, he speaks about the worldly winds, doesn't he? The 8 worldly winds of praise and blame, pleasure and pain, gain and loss. What's the other one? Oh yeah, good reputation and ill repute. These worldly winds, thank you, Satina. These worldly winds that blow, and the Buddha compares these states, these kind of situational states in our lives that can come and go. Sometimes we have a good reputation, sometimes not so good, sometimes pleasure, sometimes pain, sometimes gain, sometimes loss, and so forth. And in the same way, feelings, all these different kinds of winds, all these different experiences that we have with these sensitive bodies. And the one who is ardent, who's atape, who has situational awareness, as Bhante Sujato says, sampajanyo, right comprehension, right understanding. This phrase, these words come in the Satipatthana Sutta, don't they? In relation to mindfulness, the Buddha says mindfulness should be combined with atape, ardent effort, and sampajano, right understanding. And here in this sutta, the Buddha is saying the person who practices in this way is the master of feelings, the master of these experiences, not swayed, not blown about, isn't it? Able to stay steady, maybe like a well-rooted tree. Can be blown around in the wind, but it's not going to be uprooted. Steady, stable. So this is a beautiful simile for us to consider when we're buffeted by the winds of strong and weak and dusty and dustless feelings, isn't it? To remember this teaching. I'd like to invite now anyone and everyone, feel free to comment, reflect, question. The winds are quiet at the moment. There's not a breeze in the room. It's still. Wonderful. So we can just receive, can't we, that beautiful teaching, and we can move on to the next one. Another simile for us, another short teaching. Relax and listen, and I shall read it for you. This one is Sutta number 14. Just get it up on the screen. Here we go. Called the Guest House, Agara Sutta. The Buddha speaking. Friends, suppose there was a guest house. Lodgers come from the east, the west, the north, and the south. Aristocrats come, Brahmins, merchants, and workers, all stay there. In the same way, various feelings arise in this body, pleasant, painful, and neutral feelings. Also material, pleasant, painful, and neutral feelings arise. Also spiritual, pleasant, painful, and neutral feelings arise. So again, we have a beautiful simile, and I've actually heard this simile spoken of many times by different teachers, guided meditations, and in Dharma talks. Imagine all the states, feelings, also maybe we can consider mental states, emotional states, to be like visitors coming and going. And Ajahn Chah spoke about this famously, his teaching about invitation to imagine you're sitting very comfortably in your house, say in your sitting room, in your front room, and you're in a very comfortable armchair, relaxing, reclining. Can you open your heart and allow people to come and go, stay as long as they like, make them welcome, and just see how long they would like to visit for. And then bid them farewell, when their time has come to leave. So this simile is often, I've heard it many times in different places from different teachers. It's interesting just to point out that the Buddha describes the guests in terms of the castes, doesn't he? The caste system, which is the same now as it was then. In India, the 4 main caste divisions, the Brahmins, the priestly caste, the Khatyas, the warrior caste, the merchants, and then the lower caste, the workers. And his way of describing all the different types of people. Cynthia.
Hi. Yeah, I don't know what happened. I lost my internet and came back, so I don't know what the last comment was, but I had a comment that what I really like about this sutta is that it uses the wind as the metaphor, I guess, for feelings. And I like that because it's kind of hard to personalize the wind, I mean, like our feelings, we just think are ours, right? They're not just feelings. They're my feelings. And I would never think about doing that with the wind, So it's like, I mean, one of the ways for me to get space from feelings is really to remind myself that they're not mine. But that's really hard to do, especially when you're in something like really intense. But if it's like wind, then certainly the wind is not mine. I mean, I have no control over that wind. I've been in a hurricane and it's just doing what it's going to do. I'm not going to do anything about that. There's just no way. And so I like that image is very, very good, I think, to sort of help yourself create space from your clinging and attachment. Or my personally, maybe nobody else does this and I'm the only one, but just how I cling to how I feel and think that it's like a real thing or whatever. You know what I mean? That's my comment. Okay.
Thank you, Cynthia. That's wonderful. Yeah, thank you for pointing to that, isn't it? In this first sutta, yes, the wind, you can't make these things personal when we see them in this way. It's like, if somebody comes along and hurts or harms us, that's has a very different sense or flavor to it than if it's an act of nature. My house is destroyed because of a hurricane. Well, it's almost like a cleaner sense of, okay, there's no one to blame. I can, start to work with this, come to terms with this. There's no complexity in this regard. So I think that's really beautiful that you point that out. And actually, the first simile has that flavor. The second simile, interesting, to speak about guests, feelings as guests that come and go, almost a little bit closer to home, perhaps. I don't know how people feel about that. Both wonderful, opportunities to contemplate how we relate to feelings. Yeah, thank you so much, Cynthia. remembering the impersonal nature of our experience. It's not always easy to remember that, is it, when we're experiencing strong emotions or even strong pleasant or unpleasant feelings. The Buddha's really pointing here to the physical feelings, but we can maybe extrapolate and relate it to chitta, to relate it to moods, to relate it to also mental phenomena. We could extend the simile in those ways, perhaps helpfully. Corinna. I can't hear you. Is that just me? We can't hear you. Oh dear.
About this?
Yep, got you. Wonderful.
Yeah. I had to do a tutorial earlier on Zoom. So settings got changed.
Yeah.
I was going to say what I like about the guest house metaphor that works for me in a different kind of way. It's that when you have a guest house, it's temporary. It's not, they're not coming to move in. They're just coming to stay for a while and then they'll leave. And so, and it actually, I don't know why, but it kind of brings compassion to me, because for some reason I always, my association of a guest house is like this one place to sleep in the middle of nowhere. And it's, so people are cold and hungry and tired. And so maybe they're not my favorite kind of person, but they're cold and hungry and tired. So I feel good about giving them a place to stay. So yeah, so that just makes it easier to sort of like, to allow and to also like kind of have a sense of compassion towards the feeling, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that really does make sense. Actually, that's a very beautiful way to consider the simile, because it really helps with bringing in a sense of loving kindness and compassion, for whatever comes up.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. Thank you, Corinna.
Thank you.
I was just thinking while you're speaking, just at the end there, how it is that when we're mindful, it is like it's our house. So we're at home here, how it is when we're at home. It's like, this is comfortable. I can relax here. And when we have mindfulness, we have that ability. It is like settling in, and I'm staying here. this is my space. And then other things can, within that space, other things can come and go. And so that just came to me as you were speaking, Corinna, that sense of, we're at home when we're mindful. Mm-hmm. We've come home. As Ayya Brahmavara often says this winter retreat in her teachings, touching into home base.
Yeah.
So let us, consider, we're at home base and we've got the space, we've got the latitude then, haven't we? We've got the resources to welcome those cold, hungry, tired. I mean, these feelings that need to be able to express themselves, to be seen, to be understood. Thanks, Corinna.
Thank you.
Anyone else have any reflections or thoughts that you'd like to share about these two beautiful similes? Okay, wonderful. We're going to move on to a slightly longer sutta. Quite an interesting teaching, this next sutta. So we'll start. We'll see how we might have a few pauses to get through it. Let's see how we go. Just pop it up on the screen here. This is number 21. 3621, Sivakasutta. And here, this time I've got translation from Bhikkhu Bodhi, just the English here, to give a different voice. So let's begin. On one occasion, The Blessed One was dwelling at Rajagaha in the bamboo grove, the squirrel sanctuary. This is a place the Buddha spent quite a considerable amount of time in the kingdom of King Bimbisara, who gave this park to the Sangha. And I'm sure I've mentioned before that it's a place you can still visit today. We know exactly where it was and where it is, and it's still a park where people can go and practice, a rather awe-inspiring place. Then the wanderer Molya Sivaka approached the Blessed One and exchanged greetings with him. This name, Molya Sivaka. Molya means a top knot. This person was probably a kind of like what we might see today in India and call a sadhu, somebody with perhaps kind of dreadlocks, an ascetic. He's already a spiritual seeker. He's already a practitioner who's most probably renounced the world. This wanderer, Molya Sivaka, approached the Blessed One. They had some cordial greetings. When they concluded their greetings and cordial talk, he sat down to one side. So he's very respectful of the Buddha and very proper in his kind of way of relating to the Buddha. He said to the Blessed One, Master Gotama, here are some ascetics and Brahmins who hold such a doctrine and view as this. They think whatever a person experiences, whether it be pleasant or painful, or neither painful nor pleasant, all of this is caused by what was done in the past. What does Master Gotama say about this? So this is, I think, a good point actually to pause. So this is a view, and I don't know, I'd be interested to hear from any or all of you. Is this a view that you can relate to? Do you think this way, or do you think otherwise? That all that we feel is due to past deeds. Corinna.
I was gonna say I normally think that, but I've also I'm not sure how to put it in or understand it, but there's also something non-personal, like it doesn't have to be past deeds that I did. It could be just like biology or the nature of nature, like, yeah. So that's how I'd be curious what your thoughts are on that too, and how to understand that. Like if I'm in a hurricane, is it because I did something to cause myself to be in a hurricane in some past moment, or I'm just in the wrong place?
Yeah, thank you for that, because I actually had this view. So I really can relate to this view because I thought this was the case. I picked up the teachings in that way. And that's what I heard people saying. And I felt like everything I experienced in my meditation practice is due to past karma. And it's kind of personal. So it's something to do with this body and mind. I think what you're pointing to is quite important, Corinna, that of course the reality is that there is no personal history. It's more like there is karma. So karma in its very nature is not personal. So that's important to recognize. So teasing that out, I think we'll find out from this sutta the answer to this question, but it's like teasing that out and distinguishing between the sense of everything revolving around me and mine, and or a sense of there's karma here, but is everything that happens due to that karma, the karma of this past, relating to this mind and body? So it's an interesting question, isn't it? Let's see now. Sheila, did you want to say something?
Good
Yeah,
afternoon.
please. Yeah.
I tend to agree with you and Karina, and what comes up for me is less a deed that, again, this body or a particular body did, as much as it's an accumulation of the collective unconscious, our kind of being in this realm, almost like bumper cars for aeons and aeons, and certainly family history. But earlier this morning, we had a Dhamma talk with Ayya Ananda Bodhi, and this came up, and it was around some people, say for instance, using the body, a body as the specific reference point, may be grappling with maybe a particular issue. And it's a manifestation of, this person is a manifestation of a history or a line that has occurred in the past, that this individual just kind of is the manifestation of past occurrences. So I almost think of dependent origination just in terms of our paths. We never know where we're going to meet. We never know what previous circumstance is going to impact a new circumstance, and how we are all in this river. And so that's kind of the container that I see what is, quote, my or this body's karma.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Sheila. Yeah. Again, pointing to, isn't she, Sheila, pointing to the impersonal nature of all this experience, and to be able to see just the arising and passing, the flow of karma in this way, wise seeing. Thank you so much, Sheila. Sharanya.
I have heard it said that the Buddha said that there is nothing that happens out of random chance, that everything is a result of karma. I had a question for you, and I'm not sure if I should ask you, particularly not in this public forum, but I'm going to ask you anyway. Have you heard of Abraham Hicks?
I don't think so.
I'm sorry?
I don't think so.
Okay, then I guess I'm not going to ask the question. It's really interesting to think that if everything is a result of karma, then it becomes so important to kind of figure out what should I be thinking and doing now that's going to create a better future. And then on the other hand, I've also heard said that it's not okay for you to just be a good person, that you kind of have to go beyond good and bad to escape samsara. So these are all just very confusing concepts to me.
Yeah, that's a lot you've just brought in there. I think on the question of what are the causes of things, is karma the only cause? I think we're going to wait and come back to the sutta to find out the answer to this great question, that it's so fun to explore around it before we hear the answer, as it were. And the other issues you've raised, yeah, it can be confusing when we're told doing good, avoiding harm, it's not so important as, I don't know, other ways of practicing to let go of samsara, let go of suffering. But actually, we can remember that the Buddha was very clear on the significance, the importance of virtue, the importance of avoiding harm, the importance of keeping precepts, sila, samadhi, panya. So very important aspect of the path at the beginning, in the middle, and at the end is actually doing good and avoiding harm. So this is something to constantly, consider and try to find ways to develop, virtue and let go of any kind of unwholesome behaviors. And then we can start working on the unwholesomeness in the mind, in the heart. But I hear you, it can be confusing. I think we just want to consider the Eightfold Path again and again. And each of those path factors, how we're working on each one, how we can develop each one, you know. So we can often sense for ourselves the areas of weakness and where it's good to pay attention. But thank you for bringing that in, Sharanya. Much appreciation. And swiftly moving on, well, I've got Linda and then Maitri. So Linda first.
Hello, Ayya.
Hi.
Yeah, hi. It's funny because I've heard two different schools of thought on this, and I don't know which one, the one I prefer, but I don't know if that's going to be the right one, about karma, where there's the karmic bank, and it kind of like you collect karma from past lives and it moves into the next one. And are you responsible for attachments from that? And the other school of thought is you're only responsible for karma and attachments from your current life. And I've heard two different sides of it. I don't know which one is accurate. I mean, I prefer the one where it's only this one, because if I have to worry about stuff from past lives, and I don't know how far back that goes, I mean, that's a lot of stuff. I mean, it's going to be tough enough with this one. I don't need all that stuff that I don't remember anyway, because apparently your hard drive is wiped after each lifetime for most of the part. You don't have a lot of, some people do, but most people don't remember much from the last one, or if anything. So I thought, well, how am I supposed to deal with attachments from past lives if I don't remember anything? It's going to tough enough with this one. So I don't know which one it is. It'll be interesting to see what it says, because I've heard two different versions of this, and I don't really know which one is correct, or if people know which one is correct, if they're just kind of guessing at it, or they actually know whether we have to worry about the stuff we did in past lives or not.
Thank you, Linda. Again, it's this tricky kind of subtle teasing out, isn't it, of the idea is about karma. What is karma? What is past action in terms of how it relates to the sense of self? And I guess the whole path is about really disentangling and letting go of the sense of self, just letting it unravel, and then to view experience as the arising and passing past karma. And where does it come from? The Buddha said, didn't he? Yeah, samsara is beginningless and endless. And my sense is that this is true for the karma, and our work is to really just observe kind of any aspects of history that are kind of not at peace, not at rest, not yet finished, not yet dealt with, and where these things come from. Yeah, it's like, do we want to pay attention to that question, or do we want to simply allow the mind to purify? And so to in a way clarify our questions and the limits of our knowledge, and let that be, like the person I've not heard of, well, okay, we'll just let that be, rather than diving into trying to find out more. So it's like, where do I draw the line, and where do I focus my attention? Where do I put my attention in order to liberate the heart? It's a very good question. Very good issues that you raised there, Linda. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm really looking forward to finding out what the Buddha has to say. But first, let's explore a little further at this juncture. Maitri.
I was going to come back to the way the wanderer phrased the question was about feelings, and how the feelings were, whether they were all due to past causes. And the way I see it, I guess the initial feelings could be due to past causes, but then how you act on them, feedback on the feelings itself, you kind of how you take the feelings and how you react to them would double down, and actually could I guess that's what I wanted to bring up there. That while it could be due to past, it could be starting due to past causes. There could be how you react. That's very important. And this is the in the present moment, how you react. That's what the development needs to, the development needs to happen.
Sadhu. This is really wonderful Dharma, isn't it, everybody? Because it's true, isn't it? What Maitri's saying. The question is a good question. And yet, in fact, in a way, whatever the cause is of any particular experience, whether it's due to past karma, some past history, or whether it's due to some other reason, and we'll find out what the other reasons might be. But whatever the cause of the experience that we're having, as you say, Maitri, isn't it? The place where we can really make a difference is in our attitude to the experience, our willingness to avoid adding any suffering into the mix, and to actually grow wisdom, witness, bear witness, look at any reactivity and let it go, and just learn from everything. Like Ajahn Chah said, everything is Dhamma, everything's teaching us. So I really appreciate that, Maitri. This is a beautiful injection of wisdom into this whole kind of, how to say, area of karma and how we deal with experience. Beautiful. Thank you so much. Charidhamma, Joe Ferris, did you want to say something before we continue with this?
It was, I raised my hand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hi.
Yes. I used to think that, or have the view or understanding that, whatever feeling I had arose from karma, past karma, or current karma actions. But then I became a bit unclear about it. So I'm very interested in finding out about what the sutta has to say. In terms of whatever arises, my understanding is that whatever arises dependent upon conditions. But that karma is only one condition. In Abhidhamma, I guess there's identified 24 different kinds of conditions or paccaya that are causal for the arising of phenomena. And karma is one of them, but not the only one. And as you say, what's critical is, and both suttas really point to this, is like the opportunity and really necessity of cultivating equanimity, of regardless of who the guest is, whether we like them or not, whether they're pleasant or, whether they bring pain or whether they bring pleasure, or whether they're just kind of boring and are just neutral, to really be present for whatever kind of feeling. And particularly, what's really kind of amazing about it is that feeling, that link between feeling, conditioning, craving is like maybe the critical link, independent origination, like in the whole cause of suffering. So these seem like really super important understandings to develop, and practice. But I do think it's important to understand that not everything arises dependent upon past karmas. That there's 23 other different conditions, that cause the arising of phenomena. And my other part of the understanding with the other part of the conversation is that, samsara is really awful. We don't remember it. Like, it seems totally unfair that we don't remember what it was that somebody else did, because it wasn't me, but somebody else did in some past life, maybe even countless eons ago, that's now bringing some very unpleasant. We don't mind the pleasant or the favorable, some great experiences, but something really painful or catastrophic. I mean, like even Mahamoggallana, his death, his awful death, being beaten to death, apparently was the fruit of some past karma that had been done in that mind-body stream like eons and eons ago. And so, we're kind of accountable for it all. But the good news is that, like, by reaching the first stage, stream entry, the Buddha said you've destroyed as much bad karma as there is dirt on this whole earth. And all that you have left of your bad karma is like the dirt under my fingernail. So, like, just by reaching the first stage, but by reaching, not to become an arhat, just by reaching the first stage, you've destroyed that much karma. So that was really encouraging. So anyway, thank you. This is a super, super interesting and, for me, very important conversation.
Thank you so much. That is just wonderful. Everything that you said, I hope everyone's drinking that in. And homework, everybody. Look up in the Abhidharma, what are the 23 other courses? So I don't think we're going to hear 23 in this sutta. Therefore, we have to do the homework and explore further. Thank you so much for those beautiful reflections. Anyone else like to come in at this point? Or shall we dive into the sutta? Okay, I see a question in the chat. We'll maybe come back to that, since I'm not sure how to access it now. It's disappeared. But we'll go to the sutta first. And Cadwin, who had a question, if you can maybe raise a hand a bit later and we can address that question, okay? Okay. So let's have a look at the answer to Sivaka's question. Whatever a person experiences, pleasant or painful, or neither pleasant nor painful, is it all caused by what was done in the past? The Buddha says, some feelings arise originating from bile disorders. That some feelings arise here originating from bile disorders, one can know for oneself, and that is considered to be true in the world. Now, when those ascetics or Brahmins hold such a doctrine in view as this, whatever one experiences, pleasant, painful, or neutral, all of it's caused by what was done in the past, they overshoot what one knows by oneself, and they overshoot what is considered to be true in the world. Therefore, I say that this is wrong on the part of those ascetics and Brahmins. And I shall carry on, and we'll hear about some more causes of feelings that are not due to karma. Some feelings arise here originating from phlegm disorders, originating from wind disorders, originating from an imbalance of the three, an imbalance of bile, phlegm, and wind, these kind of elements in the body. Some feelings arise from a change of climate. Some are produced by careless behavior. Some are caused by assault. Some are produced as a result of karma. That some feelings arise produced as the result of karma, one can know for oneself, and that is considered to be true in the world. So when people hold a doctrinal view, whatever I'm experiencing, pleasant, painful, or neutral, it's all caused by what was done in the past, then they overshoot what we can know for ourselves. They overshoot what is considered to be true in the world. Therefore, I say that this is wrong on the part of those ascetics and Brahmins. And I'll carry on. When this was said, the wanderer Molya Sivaka said to the Blessed One, "Magnificent, Master Gotama, magnificent. From today, let Master Gotama remember me as a lay follower who's gone for refuge for life. And a small verse at the end, bile, phlegm, and also wind, imbalance and climate too, carelessness and assault, with karma result as the 8th. So there we have 8 causes of feelings that arise. Isn't that interesting? So I'm just, there's so much there to consider. I'll just point to one thing to start us off, which is the interesting news that physical illnesses of certain kinds may not be due to karma, but due to some kind of imbalance, maybe something in the diet or something in the environment or this body itself. So that's very interesting to me, because I think it's easy to kind of develop or to have a view that whatever happens here in the body, it's all due to past karma. So the Buddha's saying not so. And isn't he also saying, friends, that we can know the difference? That's quite interesting to me. If I come down with a case of food poisoning, can I know the difference? Can I know, well, this is something that we've all had to eat that's caused this problem? This isn't my karma. Can I know the difference? Can I feel the truth of it's this or it's that? It's very interesting. Ananaya.
For a period of time, this would be over 20 years ago, I'm sure by this point, but I was pretty enthralled with this, focus your mind and everything will be fine. You can change your life, you can have a hunky-dory life, you will have no travails, et cetera, et cetera. You just focus your mind or listen to this person or that, or this channel or that channel. Anyway, fortunately, as I evolved, and continue to do so, I really put that aside as far as, if this person got cancer, they were an angry person. Or if they got this or that, they had some kind of thought pattern that was, that was going on, that was adverse or whatever. And for myself, at what I understand to this point is that, as is said in the sutta, so many factors, because we're subject to causes and conditions. Causes and conditions aren't under our direct control. Only the response to the causes and conditions is within our means. So yes, obviously, focusing on what's positive and clearing out the mind, doing as much work as we can to hold the precepts, etc., is going to get us past that kind of erroneous thinking. But I still find that there are people who hold to this, that what you're thinking is the total reason that you are experiencing X, Y, and Z, which is why you get people saying, like in social justice, as somebody in chat just mentioned that just a little while ago. No, people who are suffering horribly, who are in deprivation, etc. Yes, they're subject to causes and conditions. Yes, they landed in a lifetime that was really not as helpful, perhaps. But that doesn't mean that everything that happens to them, the total 100% of their condition, is because of their thoughts and behaviors. That's that old pull yourself up by the bootstraps. Like everybody is going to be able to. That's a U.S. American thing right from the get-go. You just aren't working hard enough. You just aren't doing enough. After all, if you just work a little harder, you know what I mean? It's really crazy talk, but people still hold to that. They're somehow working 3 or 4 jobs. You're not doing enough. That's a prevalent kind of vein or thought that's running through our culture at the present moment, or has for a while. But anyway, so to let go of all karma, that everything that I do happening to me right now is that cause is just not, clearly it says there, and Ron mentioned about the 23 other possibilities of how But I think this is really, really important in our day and age, especially when there's so much stuff on the internet, so many people claiming to, do this and, you'll have that result. And it's so important to have this conversation and to have this clear about really what are the causative factors and what are the things that we have within our own beingness that we can address and change, and things that we cannot.
Thank you so much, Ananaya. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. It's sort of opening into so many different vistas for me as you're speaking, and I'm sure for everybody. And it's really like, to recognize that we, in a way, what I'm really receiving as you speak, Ananaya, is the sense of, well, we don't know, and we can try to see how it feels, what the sense is of the causes, but at the end of the day, we just don't really know. So let's not worry too much about that, and let's assume that we don't know. So that if there's illness, it's like, yes, it could be past karma, and it may not. Never mind. This is the situation. Let me deal with. But I think that sense of holding and making mine the sense of responsibility. It's a little bit like you were touching in on, Linda, the sense of, well, I did all these things in these countless past lives, so I have to suffer, and oh my goodness, it's all too much. It's actually, this sutta is a real encouragement for me to recognize the importance of responsibility, and also the limitations of thinking in that way, and in a way, the kind of punishing quality that Ananaya you're pointing to that can be there for us when we hold too tightly to a sense of responsibility. And I'm very struck in this sutta by the Buddha mentioning climate change. He's actually mentioning climate change here, isn't he? The change of climate. And also he mentions carelessness, and they actually go one after the other. So for me, there's an enormous amount to consider in this extraordinary, teaching of 2,500 years ago. And the Buddha's saying, well, let's recognize that changing climate and carelessness are not due to karma. So we can maybe, reflect on that. How much do we feel responsible? And how much should we feel responsible? How much do we need that sense of responsibility to kind of goad us into making changes? Or do we need a sense of responsibility? Is it actually good to recognize that it's not my fault? I don't know. This is a question. This is all up for discussion. Sheila.
What comes up for me in the question, taking responsibility, and it's just the rhetorical, what I think of, and I go back to right view, and of course it would be situational, but in that question, how do I take responsibility? Just that question of being accountable, for me, is the category or the lens of would be, could be, right view.
Yeah. Beautiful. Thank you, Sheila.
Or
Bringing
reflecting
right
in that way, reflecting what is right view in this moment and in this situation. I may not have clarified that or as clearly as I wanted to.
Thank you so much. Yeah. To be guided by right view, to come back to right view, to be able to work with experience skillfully. Sadhu, Sheila. Thanks so much for bringing that in for us. Is it Charudama?
Yeah, it's actually Ron or Suratama, but yeah, no, I think the conversation about responsibility is really like super, super important. And one of the things that's been extraordinarily valuable and important to me is distinguishing between responsibility and blame or fault or guilt or shame. And the really powerful and important distinction that I've learned is that responsibility is always empowering, and that blame and fault and guilt and shame or even credit is disempowering. And by responsibility, a definition that I found useful is just seeing that I am causal in the matter. Because if I see that this mind-body process has the power to cause the experience through mindfulness, through basically the practice of the path, then, because as you said so wisely and brilliantly, who knows why this particular thing is arising? And the Buddha said we go crazy if we try to figure it out. And what we do know and what we can do and be responsible for is how in this moment we respond as in responsibility. We respond to whatever's arising. And so I see responsibility always as being really empowering. And otherwise, it's like we just make ourselves at the effect of whatever's arising. This is happening to me. There's nothing I can do about it. Well, of course, there's nothing you can do about whatever's arising, except, as you said so wisely earlier, and other people have said wisely, how we respond as in responsibility.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. That is so helpful. Yeah. I'm reminded how my teacher Goenkaji, he would say, if we think we're, maybe 50% responsible for an issue and they're 50% responsible, he would say, that's all wrong. You have to recognize you're 100% responsible. And as you're speaking, that came back to me, and that understanding. How we take responsibility is everything, isn't it? It's how we use that responsiveness and that willingness to fully open to the situation, and not to make it a guilt trip, as you say, but to make it something like a powerful force that we can apply in our practice. And that's so beautiful, like not avoiding issues, but rather opening to issues. Thank you so much.
Totally. Well, a great example of that is in the simile of the saw.
Yes.
Like where the Buddha, because so many of the Buddha's teachings are teachings about how basically that we're 100% responsible for how we respond no matter what. So, there are these 5 courses of speech that someone may speak to you, they can be harsh and angry and wanting to hurt you, and but my mind will remain unaffected, and I shall utter no evil words. I shall abide compassionate for their welfare, and starting with them, I shall pervade them with love and kindness. It's like, what? It's like, but that for me, that's a message of responsibility. That we always have responsibility for how we respond to whatever's arising, and it's really the ultimate empowerment, not like. And the alternative, it's like, I'm to blame, or that weakens the mind,
Yeah, absolutely. That's it. Just as Maitri was saying, isn't it? It's how we apply that sense of responsibility. And if we apply it skillfully, absolutely, we can rise to the occasion, can't we? Again and again. It's radical. This is really a radical teaching.
Well, it totally is. I mean, imagine if Anugulimala, had to carry the burden of guilt, rather than just took responsibility for killing 999 people and creating all that suffering, like he couldn't have done anything. He would have been paralyzed.
Absolutely. And it's just the supreme guidance, isn't it, for us? Whatever the situation, and coming back to this sutra, it's like whatever the cause is of the situation, never mind. In a way, it's like I haven't got time to think about that even. I'm so busy dealing with the response due to my
Exactly.
sense of responsibility, full responsibility, not having any kind of victim mentality, but to take on. And, you know, coming back to this point, these other causes of changing climate and carelessness, I'm really kind of interested in this because in our contemporary time, feels so relevant. And how do we deal with? So to take responsibility, but not to make it like a reason to be caught up in any kind of negative, guilty, averse mind states. But okay, how to deal with this situation? What can I skillfully do and fully take responsibility around this? Very, very interesting. There's so much here to contemplate. Thank you so much for your beautiful reflections. Cynthia.
Hi, yes. On those notes, this conversation has actually kind of been up for me this week. I talked to Karina about it. She's shaking her head. Yeah, so I remember back when I first walked into a Bayagiri after a bunch of stuff happened to me, and I was selfing pretty hard, and I was like having a hard time getting out of the selfing of things that happened. Because I was feeling like, I mean, I obviously was an axe murderer in my past life or something, you know, in order for all this stuff to happen. And one of the monks there said, we've all been axe murderers in our past life. And I got reminded of basically that same lesson this past weekend when I was at Pacific Hermitage, that through this example of how chimpanzees treat each other, just how brutal humans have been against each other over time. And we've all been here hundreds, thousands of times, right? So we all carry that sort of ability to be like that and be deluded like that and be hateful like that. And we all have that. And to really deeply realize that that's in you, and that the people acting like that out there are part of you too, that we all share that. And the only thing we can do is respond differently now. Is to bring something else and make it, change it. And I think that for me, that just realizing that that's in me helps me feel a lot of compassion for the people that are coming from a really bad place.
Thank you so much, Cynthia. It's very touching what you're sharing, and so true. Let's not separate ourselves out. Let's not make anybody into the wrong one. It's all about suffering and ignorance and how we find our way, out of suffering. And I think this path is a great leveler, isn't it? Because as we practice, we get to know all these dark corners, the kind of reptilian mind and the animal instincts, we're opening to them. We're not denying them. We're actually really allowing ourselves to appreciate where we've come from. And we have the animal nature that we do. And can we rise up and be human? What is it to be a human? And this is not to put the animal kingdom down. We're part of it. It's more like, how can we apply our intelligence to avoid adding suffering into the mix, and we can, and how wonderful is that? But yeah, just to really own and to open to these instincts and impulses that we have, and that we may read or hear about terrible things happening around us in the world, but let's not think it's all out there, and let's bring it home and have compassion as we understand where these kinds of actions come from. Beautiful. Thank you so much. Quite humbling, isn't it, to take responsibility for all of that, for all of the hurt and harm that can happen, and for the potential in all of us to go astray through confusion, through overwhelm, through not seeing things clearly. Nobody, isn't it? Nobody would harm or hurt another, or harm or hurt themselves, which is the same thing, if they weren't very confused. Like talking about Angulimala there, you know, he was confused. He thought he was doing something for his spiritual teacher. He thought he should obey his spiritual teacher. So he commits all these murders. He's not really an evil person, amazingly enough, in this case, so we're told. But he felt he had to follow through, painful though it was to kill all these people. How confused. But actually anyone who hurts and harms anyone, themselves and anyone, how confused, how painful, how much compassion can stream forth from the heart that is more willing to not see separation there, but to see our commonality. Yeah, thank you, Cynthia. Would anyone else like to come in? Yeah, Corinna. Not hearing you at the moment.
Thank you. I was saying my thoughts aren't very clear, but I think I can clarify them while I'm talking, hopefully. Ron, something you said, this is what I'm going to take home with me. I don't know, every time I listen to a Dhamma discussion, I have this habit of like highlighting phrases that I keep with me. And it's, am I causal in this? Just taking that question home, part of kind of like Sheila, you mentioned, what is right view in this situation? And I think that question is going to help me find that. Because it is such a tricky thing to separate. Where do I have responsibility? Where is it just the nature of this body and the conditions it's in? Or is it from some habits, some bad habits I have that I'm unconscious of? So I guess I guess two things I want to say. Just the acknowledged, I appreciate this discussion right now because, you know, especially in modern times, there's a lot of talk about climate change and responsibility and sort of credits and more polluting nations doing something for nations that haven't polluted as much and are affected a much greater amount, like island nations, and just to look at it through the lens of, am I causal in that? Is this country causal in that country's effect? So I appreciate having that for me to clarify how I understand that. But I actually want to look at it and talk about it in terms of sickness. Because it is really, Ananea, you were saying, you know, some people can really have this idea of like, oh, you know, somehow you're responsible for your sickness from something, you know. It's a little hard to tease out sometimes, but this may seem counter, like I'm saying. I heard something from Ajahn Brahm, which I really liked also, which was not to take this life too seriously, which sounds funny, but you know, usually when in Dhamma talks, there's this idea of urgency and like to take this life seriously. But I find it's also helpful to have the other perspective of, not that I'm saying, just be lazy and sit back, but it's like you do your best in this life. And if it doesn't work out, there's going to be another one then. And then you do your best in that one. So when I'm hit with sickness, and I have been lately, there's sort of this, I'm just going to do my best, find out where I'm causal in it, if I can find something and address that. And if it doesn't, so it's like not clinging to health or not clinging to it being my life being great and to figuring everything out now. I mean, I'd like to, but I'm trying to, but not to take it so seriously, also to see it in like the big picture, in that, there might be many more opportunities that I get to work on this, and just to do my best now with what I can now, not have that pressure. And because if I do, then I'm going to go a little bit into blame and trying to get an answer at all costs. We're like, oh, it can't be me. It must be them that did this to me, or yes, things that I don't know. I thought I'd share that.
Thank you so much, Corinna. Yeah, it really lends itself, what you're sharing and so eloquently putting out, the in a way, like the unknown quality of our ability to discern the causes. It's a bit of a tangled web, that, and in this sutta, it's wonderful to see, there are these different causes, and as our dear friend said, 23 other causes of phenomena. Okay, but actually to try and delve in and to go in that way of thinking about causes, it tends to be confusing, and as you're saying, Corinna, it's like one can feel a sense of pressure or a sense of defilements can actually come into that space, like guilt or shame or blame. And so again, for me, it just points again to really what Maitri was saying, and others have said, that so where can I usefully apply my attention? And it always seems to come back to this moment and this awareness, and to be really guided by the mindfulness, by the right view, as Sheila said, and maybe to keep coming back and considering what is right view in this moment. And my sense is then we can trust that the time's well spent, and we have that guidance, how to take responsibility in such a way that will be effective. First of all, it's like here, isn't it, to have the peace, have the well-being that comes from our practice, and then to see how we can contribute from that place, but not so pressured, not so much effortful as natural. Yeah, just some riffs on what you were saying there, Corinna. Don't know if you'd like to come back, or if anyone else would like to come in at this point.
I was just going to say, I want to bring home that point. It's because sometimes I can develop the wrong view of I'm failing if I'm not healthy. I failed at something, or I'm failing if I'm running into problems. If my life isn't secure, if something happened to me, I failed in some way. And that's not how you succeed. That's not where you,
Absolutely. Sadhu to that. Yeah, let's be very quick to let go of such kind of painful thoughts, punishing thoughts, and just great to see them, because they do arise for us, and then to be able to let go. And I think, as you were saying, Corinna, when there's physical sickness, we can be so quick to kind of take responsibility for that in a way that's not helpful, what I mean is we can blame ourselves or feel we've done something wrong or something in the past that we can't even remember, Linda, you know, must be something I've done. But actually to take responsibility is to be present for that illness, right? It's to be willing to open to the situation and to work with the reactivity and so forth. And so it's like, yeah, we can take responsibility, but in the right way. So to see those kinds of punishing thoughts for what they are, just Mara, Mara coming to torment us and letting them go. Sadhu, Karina, for sharing that. I'm sure that's relevant for all of us. After all, pretty much all of us are going to get sick if we're not already at some point. So this is really important to consider. Thank you. We have Satina now in the room, who's making her way over to the microphone. And I shall turn the camera so you get a chance to see who's in the room as well. We haven't greeted the Venerables yet. We have Venerables out there in Zoom land. I'd like to warmly greet you, Samaneri, Satima, and Nyada. Look at Nyada now in robes. Sadhu, Nyada. And also we have, Venerable Kachayana and Anagarika Padibadal, and our dear friend Farron, Satina, and Venerable Brahmavara. So this is us in the room, the hidden ones are now revealed. And here we are, Satina. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. It's always so beautiful to be learning amongst all of you, all. My reflection on the sutta, just on the eight things at the end there. Like I'm kind of seeing how some of them are internal, like within the body. Some of them are external, like the climate. I think with assault is interesting because I feel like the Buddha is saying, bad things happen. People get assaulted, or they assault, and it happens. It's just something just plainly stated that is a phenomenon. But kind of this internal, external, they were talking about the body. Not really sure what a bioflem or wind disorder is. But yeah, I kind of get the sense of an imbalance there. Yeah, and then my understanding of karma is that it's really I think it's the 4 imponderables. Like if you, I think, was it Ron or someone who said it, if you try to think of it, you will for sure go crazy. So don't. And I really like the word that's used here, overshoot. Like, it's not that they got it wrong. They just went too far with it. They, the delusion of not seeing the other 7. They're like, oh, that's the one. It's like, you're not seeing all the trees. You're only seeing that one tree. So, yeah. Not sure what a bioflem or wind disorder is.
Good question. Thank you so much, Satina. Oh, brilliant. Yes. Pointing to this expression overshoot. That is really wonderful. I'm so glad you point that out. It's like we're just slightly off the mark. We're going a bit far in a certain direction that's not a right direction. That's tremendous to come back to that sense of how we can make these mistakes in our definition, trying to define the causes. Bio, wind, and phlegm, what do we think about that? This is so interesting. I'm just remembering that the Buddha himself, right, he had wind issues, didn't he? He had stomach problems. He also had back problems. The definition, the ways of understanding the body in those days were perhaps a little bit different from today, but it does make me think of things like COVID, catching a cold, catching a flu, getting COVID. And then you brought in also being assaulted. Isn't it terrible how sometimes when people are assaulted, they will feel that maybe it was because they did something wrong, or they're made to feel that way, that maybe they're somehow responsible. And here the Buddha is saying assault is one of those things that can happen. Let's not assume it's due to past karma. These things can come. In the case of Moggallana was mentioned, the Arahant monk who was beaten to death. And the Buddha said, oh, it's because of some past karma. Obviously not personal in a sense, not in his lifetime, but some causal factor was there. And this is what happened. But you know, here the Buddha is saying to be assaulted, just assume it's not, or we don't know. But this is a cause in and of itself. So any thoughts from anyone about this or about these disorders, these health issues? Sheila.
I just quickly wanted to say, in terms of assault, what comes to mind are the tragedies, for example, last week with all the rain and the trees that were uprooted and people killed instantaneously. And so there can be assault, which is by nature, and not to minimize the loss of life, but that's what I thought of is in this moment, any and everything can happen. The people who literally within a flash, towns floating away, people getting caught in floods in their cars. And it wasn't anything that they did. It was what happened in that moment because of the conditions, and in this case, the climate.
Absolutely. Thank you, Sheila. Yeah, bringing that in. I'm sure that's there for a lot of us, isn't it? It's in our minds because this is such a shocking and, you know, hugely impactful event that's just happened, not so very far away. Again, it sort of lends for me the sense of opening to the bigger picture, you know, because even seeing karma as the cause of things, recognizing it's not tight and held and self, it's much wider than that, the bigger picture, and then all these other causes too. And again and again, it's sort of pointing to, this is a really good question, and this is a really helpful answer. And then how do we practice? How do we deal skillfully with whatever's present right now for us, whatever the causes? And I'm just so grateful for this conversation about responsibility, its meaning, and how we can apply it. We're pretty close to end time, but I'm very happy to see a hand here from our new venerable. I don't know, is it Nyada? Are you Nyada still, or do you have a different name now?
I still remain the same name. I just have now. I just kind of like become a seminary now. So I have seminary Nyada. That is a change.
Wonderful.
But yeah, first I tried to catch what you're talking about, but now it seems to be, I understand. And what I think is, if everyone remain quality of calm that we learn from Buddha, that you remain yourself in meditation each day, you be calm and you shut all the door. So all those gonna go into your soul and feeling. You know, this is the way we have to practice to calm yourself for all situations. Things happen because karma. That's correct. It's karma. Every individual one have karma. It may be a mass karma. It means, you know, the number of karma. It's in the same time. And it happens often. So it's more like you swim against the debris of the different floating of the water. So you're gonna see all the things that come with the water. And it's a massive of all the debris. But you have to remain yourself calm for your own healthy. When you remain yourself healthy and quality, and spread the quality of healthy, inner healthy and calm to someone else around you. First of all, yourself, and that aura of your calm, it will spread to your close by, like your family, and your family remain calm and, you know, in the practices of be calming. And then it will spread to the friend of your family, such as in school, at work. And that's the way we have to respond. You respond to yourself first to be calm and continuing strongly, calmly. Don't let all those make yourself inner unhealthy. It can be because it's gonna eat up you each day. But you have to remind yourself, is everyone else karma? It happened because it have karma. Maybe it's not this life, maybe from their past life. You don't know, but you just witness the massive of changing. So we have to get back to look at yourself and stand strongly in your calm self with your practice. That's all I think is, and you know, if you can encourage every individual one that pass into your life to, I mean, like regular person, you know, like normal regular person, if they really commit with 5%, is thing gonna pay off, the bad thing gonna pay off. If you can expand, have everyone keep promise to the 5%, like no kill, no steal, all those gonna make the world better. But it's gonna take time. But now what I see the problem is you you start to panic with all the things, the bad thing that happens around you. Of course, because it happens often, right? But you have to remind yourself, you have to keep calm and be practice, do meditation, and spread that aura of your calm for people around you. And then the better thing will happen. That's what I hope. And I believe, you know, we have to respond to our own individual first. Sadhu. Thank you for opportunity.
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Well said. Thank you so much. This is a beautiful way for us to end this session. Big gratitude to you, Nyada, Seminary Nyada. Equanimity. I love the way the words are connected. English word calm and this karma. To be calm around karma. Whatever the cause is, in fact, whatever the cause is, can we maintain this sense of peacefulness and equanimity? And I think we can. And I really thank you for bringing this in as an encouragement for us all as we deal with who knows what's next, you know, who knows what causes will arise, and can we stay steady? Can we stay mindful? Can we welcome all the guests who come and go, treat them all the same, have an open heart for them? Can we see feelings as winds that blow? Not personal, not me, not mine. All these teachings we can consider and contemplate this week, and wish you all every blessing in your practice. And thank you all so much for being part of this group. We have another session on Tuesday evening, got a meditation and Dharma talk. It'll be my last session here at Dhammadharani. And then we have Ayya Surijana coming back to Dhammadharani in a couple of days, and she'll be continuing with the regular teaching sessions from next week. So big gratitude to her. And big gratitude to everyone for your practice. Let's finish with paying homage to the Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha, to our teacher. Arahant Sama Sambuddha Bhagavata Bhagavata Adivate Sivakasutta Bhagavata Dhamma Sami Supatipano Bhagavato Sakasango Sangan Rama. Thanks, everyone. Thanks for your chat contributions. Sorry I
Thank
didn't
you,
get
Ayya.
into those.
Thank you for everything, Ayya. You're a
Thanks,
wonderful teacher.
Sadhu, sadhu.
Sadhu.
Thank you, Ayya. It's been such a pleasure to learn and hear from you. I hope you have a safe trip back.
And I hope you come back again. I hope you have the opportunity.
If they let me back, I'll be back.
We'll put in a good word if you can.
Do you know when you'll be at Empty Cloud in New Jersey? When you'll be
Yeah.
teaching there?
Well, yeah, I'm going to be there for the Vasa, and they're doing an early Vasa, Sheila. So it's going to be from beginning of July through till the end of September.
Excellent.
And I'm really looking forward to being with the Sangha there also.
So you're not going to New Zealand until October then?
Oh, I go to the monastery in New Zealand next year from January.
Oh, next year from January.
24.
So you'll be in New Jersey until the end of this year. Okay, great. I just
Well,
wanted to know what your
September.
schedule was. Because I've already gone and checked it out to see about times and stuff like that. So I can follow you.
Good
Thanks.
luck with your Tudong in the fall.
Thank you so much.
Yes.
Yes, thank you, Ayya.
Thanks for being with us, Chelsea.
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
Sadhu.
Thank you, Ayya.
Thank you so much, Ayya. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.